There you
You
go.
got it, okay. Call to order and roll call, please.
Kevin Janaszek.
Ann Zimmerman.
Denny Walgren.
Bruce Richardson.
Larry Pencratz.
Paul Gebhardt. John Miller.
Okay, request all staff confirmation that the Kansas Open Meeting Act required notice has been properly provided.
It was.
Has been, okay, thank you. Got that a little backwards, but that's okay. I can see up here at the top, it's got up there, and down got it there.
That's right.
Do we have any guests today?
Parks and Recreation does not have any guests.
Terrific. Citizens Forum. That same thing?
Oh,
Okay. Need an approval of the agenda?
I move we approve the agenda.
I'll second it.
Yep.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Approved. Approval of minutes, please.
Before you approve them, I noticed I was in attendance and wasn't in attendance. So if we're going to clear that up. I know I'm good, but not that good.
And I recall clearly
yeah.
that you were not here.
It should be noted that Larry was not present at that meeting. So we need to strike that from the
Okay.
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Activity reports, please.
Thank you. So as I normally do, I'm going to try to go through this a little bit quickly today and hit the highlights of our activity reports from the month of July. If there's something you have questions about or need further explanation about, or something that I didn't cover that you want covered, please feel free to ask. July is a very busy month, middle of summer. So under Parks, the city streets department is doing some resurfacing using a new technique. They included Sunset Park in that technique. It's called pressure pave. So they re-asphalted the driveways or the roads through Sunset Park. Park staff assisted with Play Day in the Park and the car show. Under landscaping, the south pod, of Barkley Park, that's the pod that's currently closed, was seeded with Bermuda. They also, if you notice on Crawford, you'll see some of the diamonds at Bill Burke that are brown. We are removing invasive grass or grass that we don't want in those fields and in different spots. Field 1, which is the field closest to Crawford, is most noticeable because the entire field had Bermuda in it, which is not necessarily an invasive grass, I guess, but it's not a desirable grass for ball fields. So we want to overseed with fescue, and that'll be a over the winter project. And just similar, if you remember, we did that. Dennis's staff did that at Oakdale this past summer or past winter. Came back really nice and looks great. So jumping down Lakewood. Staff restored the aerator for the pond and replaced stairs for fishing access. We now have our own workboat for Lakewood. So instead of relying on another organization's workboat to use and to wait for when that workboat is available, we now have our own workboat, which we can do some of those things that we normally can't do on a timely basis, which I thought was notable.
I know this isn't part of the activity thing, but at Lakewood, the restrooms are the one that got torched is going to...
Yeah, it got cleaned up. We cleaned it up. It should be boarded up, the interior cavity. We're now kind of, I wouldn't say we're in a holding pattern, but we're waiting for a possible insurance claim to provide some funds to cover the cost of the cleanup, and also make a decision about whether we want to try to remodel that space if we are able to, or demolish it and put in something new. So we're getting prices for putting in something new and kind of developing costs relating to if we have the ability to put a new roof on it, restore it, and remodel it. So we'll see what we do from that point.
I'm not familiar with that incident, so
There was a fire at the bathroom on the south side of Lakewood Park. The fire investigators determined that it was someone that didn't extinguish something that was flammable. It was the cause, and it caused quite a bit of damage to the roof and the interior structure. That structure itself holds 2 bathrooms, but also in the middle is a small shop, which we use to serve Lakewood Park, for staff to serve Lakewood Park. And that interior area is a total loss of everything that was inside of it. And that's giving you an update about that. So, animal shelter, the staff was able to resolve kennel cough. We had a round of kennel cough go through. It was introduced by a dog who came in as a stray, we believe. Despite whenever we have an intake of dogs, we always give vaccines. And as I think, even as humans, vaccines are not always 100% effective. They might reduce symptoms, but we had kennel cough affect about 10 dogs. So we had to do some isolation. We had to close the dog park, the public dog park. So we didn't expose any public dogs to the dogs that potentially have kennel cough. But it's under control now. We no longer have any dogs that have kennel cough. Playdate in the park, very successful. We had some new amenities, which some of you sent me pictures about. It was the foam machine, estimated similar to last year, about 2,000 participants. Under golf course, a question was brought to me, and I actually had a question about it too before I wrote this. Our new carts have the ability to be geo-fenced. So you create a zone in which that cart can only operate within that fence. So it's so it kind of helps keep golf carts off paths that they should not be driving on. They have a GPS-enabled device on the cart, and that is very helpful to controlling how those are used and staying on proper paths and things like that.
I can attest they do work.
I've heard from several people that do in fact work. They will stop.
They will.
I've also heard that some of the club members don't like that they can't drive right up to the green anymore.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. That's
It's actually really good. I was amazed at those carts. They're just incredible.
Yeah. The technology is amazing. I'm assuming Travis wants to speak about Fieldhouse athletic stuff. I'll let him do that right now if he wants to.
Yeah, I got a few things. Not as busy as June. June is really, really busy outdoors and in the field house. But we still got a few things going on and winding down our summer activities. Just a few things to note. Summer camp. We did wind down with summer camp at the end of July, and every single week was full with a waiting list. Every single one except one. That was July 4th week. So we're trying to find out some solutions for that moving forward to maybe up our campers and up our resources for that program. The field house, we had a first time. It was called Breakthrough Basketball. It was a camp there in the middle of July. That went pretty well with 40 players. We got some pretty good surveys for that. So hopefully they come back. MAYB is still prevalent in the field house. They had another tournament. I know this didn't occur until August, so it'll be on next month's report, but maybe some of you heard it. We did host and Denny did inquire about it, so we did host the Kansas State High School Activities Association coaching school there. That's the first time, and it's been in Topeka for like 80 years. I don't know, but
Are you checking on my age?
Yeah, I think I am, Denny. But we did do some things and got it here in Salina, and they wanted more hands-on demonstration space along with session space, and I think we were able to accomplish that. Over 500 and some coaches for 2 days in Salina, in the field house, and that's a good thing for Salina as a whole and for the field house. So I just wanted
That's not just basketball.
No. So it's coaching school, so they had multiple sports in there, basketball, volleyball, wrestling, softball, football, you name Acacia sport. There were sessions in there going on, and it was a really good thing. So 2 days solid was a great event. Outdoors, the trend, I've been seeing a little trend there. I mean, everybody kind of wants to wind down baseball and softball by about the early part of July and use the rest of that July for vacations. And it gets hot, I guess, in July is what I heard. So we're going to focus a little more on showcase tournaments during that time and period. But I was pretty happy with our league going in the right direction. We had 78 teams that's 14 more than last year. So that's a good thing. We did have 28 soccer teams, 3v3. That program continues to flourish. I do want to mention that this week is our last day with Dave Atterkirk. He's decided to move on with see some grandkids, I guess. So wish him the best. But I think I told you this before. When I handed the baton to him 5 years ago, we had 3 teams. 3. And he produced over 100 and some teams every year. So it's a great thing. And that position is out to be applied for as we speak. And we did partner with Salina Tennis Alliance to have a camp there at the tennis complex. So I wanted to mention that as well.
Are they running any of their own tournaments or camps or anything? The Tennis Association?
Yes, they have different events. I couldn't speak to the details, but I've seen their social media. They started their round of fall programming with different colored balls, which represent different age groups. And they were doing clinics. The one clinic I saw was for college age. It was something in partnership with Kansas Wesleyan. And I know they are picking up their women's USTA league probably about now for the fall. Probably September.
So what's our price versus their price on tennis lessons?
The 8-week tennis camp that we had this summer, what did we price that at?
Was that like 60-something?
$60, yeah, $60 per participant for.
So it's a little bit more practical for the kid who isn't at the
Right.
level that
Correct.
the tennis
We
court
intentionally
play.
wanted to do that.
No, I think it's a good idea.
Do a split of the revenues. We wanted to keep it affordable, and for people that didn't necessarily want or didn't necessarily have the funds to play tennis, we wanted to keep affordable.
Good.
Yeah. Last couple things I have, maintenance, facility maintenance. We tend to put in, for the past 2 or 3 years, we've been putting in 5 to 8 security cameras per year in different areas. And some work at, I think reported last month that Bill Burke shade structures were done. We did hand over the bathroom operation to the Salina Tennis Alliance, and that has been going on for about 3 to 4 weeks now. And his construction staff, facility maintenance construction staff, are into remodeling the older style bathroom in Kenwood Park. That's near Petals Flowers. And quite a bit, pretty busy.
What's on the security cameras? It says BFRA. What's that mean?
Berkeley family.
Oh, Berkeley
Family
okay.
Recreational Area.
Okay, and then Ad Astra.
That's the stage.
Oh,
that's
okay.
at the location of Santa Fe and Ash. I do have some responsibilities there relating to electrical and landscaping, lighting, and such.
I think they're calling that City Light Stage now.
That's correct. That's the stage. That's the proper name, is City Light Stage.
Okay.
So back to Bill Burke. Is that just along where both ball diamonds are and things, or
For security cameras,
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
yeah,
Security cameras, we have them on the bathrooms,
okay.
not inside the bathroom.
Yeah.
Outside the
Where
bathroom.
you have the most problems, yeah.
Because we have the most vandalism.
Yeah, yeah.
And the whole purpose of security cameras really is for vandalism, to see if we can capture someone in the act, and we can provide that data to the police for a police report. If there's any other questions about any other item on the activity report, myself or staff be happy to try to answer those.
I did want to say probably thanks to all the recreation park staff especially with all the trees that got nailed and the parks and everything. You guys did a nice job of getting everything cleaned up, and I mean, that was a heck of a storm that came through here. But plus everything you guys do in the summertime, from pools and everything, you guys just are running a lot of people through that. So nice job.
Yeah, thank you. Was it 4,000 tons of tree limbs brought to the landfill?
Won't surprise me none.
Yeah.
And I think I like to, just publicly point out that Dennis's team has been very actively involved in that cleanup process. So much so that some of the normal activities that occur in parks that he's responsible for have been kind of delayed. But his intention, once this cleanup happens, which is an entire city, it's not only on him, it's an entire city team effort. And but we'll get back to those tasks that we normally do. So thank you.
Shall we move on to new business?
It's up to you.
Let's do.
Pardon?
Let's do.
Yes, just go ahead.
Oh,
Say
look,
new-
we got it
new-
going
new-
here.
Let's just say new business.
The updated Dean Evans, consideration and recommendations.
Yes.
Not
So
sure
let
what
me
we got
put a
going
little more
here.
context to the agenda item under new business. It's for fees relating to the use of Dean Evans and Pestinger Family Stadium. We brought this up in April or May of this year, and as some of you might know, this was brought to the City Commission in May 13th of this year, and it was postponed by the City Commission to re-examine fee structure for not only for Dean Evans and Pestinger Family Stadium, but also for Bill Burke Park, for the nature of having turf fields, and we haven't, but I wanted to kind of treat this in two parts, so it'd be kind of an A and B under new business. A would be the Dean Evans Stadium and Pestinger Family Stadium, and B would be Bill Burke. I would like to treat them as separate topics with a separate discussion from the board and a consideration from the board and a recommendation from the board for each. But I'm going to have a brief presentation for each, and I'm going to start with Dean Evans and Pestinger Family Stadium. This is a similar, for Dean Evans and Pestinger Family, this is a similar, it's the same, let me back up a minute. There is a separate board that is responsible for the Berkeley Family Recreational Area. It's called the BFRA Advisory Board. That board was created with a development agreement with Salina Baseball Enterprises. I'm on that board. Travis is on that board. Denny's on the board as a representative of the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. There's also members of Salina Baseball Enterprises. There's members of Kansas Wesleyan. There's members of USD 305. And so it's a kind of a user groups that are all representing of this party that was to this agreement, that was part of the development agreement that came through for Dean Evans 3 years ago when that was originally under construction. So this board's responsibility is to set rules for use of fields at Barkley Road, namely Dean Evans and now Pestinger Family Stadium, set fees to establish policies relating to its use, to discuss improvements, to discuss, and I'm going to have, if Travis might butt in on me, and if I miss something, he's going to correct me, because he's very involved in that board. He's actually responsible for that board. So feel free, Travis, to jump in if I'm missing something. Sure. So part of that responsibility, as I mentioned, was fees. When Travis, 3 years ago, early 2021, looked at a set of comparable facilities, collected that information from comparable facilities, and rates for use were developed by that board, approved by that board, and used by that board for the past 3 years. On that second page of the Dean Evans, second page is the existing fees as they stand. For a 7-inning game, it's $150. For a 9-inning game, it's $200. Per hour fee is $50 an hour, and that's for a practice. So there's two separate game fees, and then there's a practice by the hour fee. There's also a per day fee that was developed, which is not a requirement of the board's responsibilities. It was just by the game, by the hour for practice, and for lights. That's what the limitations of the board were responsible for assessing fees for. So we felt after 3 years passing and the development of a new field, Pestinger Family Field, increased expenses relating to maintenance and repair of that field. The pay plan really changed our expenses relating to how our staff expenses to maintaining everything, including that field. A portion of funding future turf replacement, which we anticipate to do in 12 years or so, or actually 9 years now. Staff felt it necessary to re-examine the fees for both Dean Evans and Pestinger Family. So as I said, we look at the agreement, the development agreement for Dean Evans Stadium and now Pestinger Family Stadium. Look at fees by the game, by the practice, for the hour, and fees for lights. So our method to our madness was to identify directly comparable facilities and provide recommended fees on the directly comparable facilities, and then provide a justification as to why. There's the last page of the Dean Evans agreement. There's a page that looks like this. It has a little yellow highlight. That is the comparable facilities, and Travis's recent efforts of collecting updated information that he did 3 years ago. He did it just recently, to update those fees from those facilities. Couple questions that I had asked of me. The private facility on that list of comparable facilities, Genesis, that's a private complex in Goddard, Kansas.
Yep.
Is that right? Yeah. For rent. So as you're looking at my slides, kind of keep this comparable sheet off to the side so you can look at those comparisons. We identified the 4 fields as being the most applicable or most comparable to Dean Evans and Pestinger Family, and that was Shawnee County, Washburn College, Mays High School and Mays South High School, and Hayes Larks Park. Some of our justification for recommending updated fees, we do expect to replace turf in 9 years from now. Dean Evans was completed in 21. Pestinger Family is completed this year. The city expects that these fees contribute a small portion to the turf replacement fund. The turf replacement fund was also established as part of the Dean Evans agreement 3 years ago, and that fund is used to fund for future turf replacement. The turf replacement fund, we're shooting for about $2.3 million to try to fund future turf replacement at Pestinger family, Dean Evans, and Bill Burke as well. Fees are not going to cut it alone. Fees are a small portion of what the city is contributing to that fund. There's also, additionally, there's a yearly capital request from the City Commission to contribute to the turf maintenance fund. The remainder of the funds will be coming from transient guest tax that we have already established, collecting from that fund to contribute to the turf maintenance fund or turf replacement fund. And costs related to repair, maintenance have only increased year after year. Selected areas of turf have already been replaced. High use areas, high wear areas, pitching mounds, batters boxes. We typically do pitching mounds once a year. We do batters boxes every 2 to 3 years. In the next couple of years, we're looking at replacing the running lane from home to first base. Correct me if I'm wrong, Travis.
Yeah, home to first, and then you'll start to see that wear from first to second. And as the batters go around, it gets less and less. But you'll start from home plate to first, and then first to second. You're already starting to see some wear.
So, in the justification of fees, we're taking care of what we have, but eventually it's going to catch up to us, and we're going to need to replace it fully. And the method to establishing a cost for replacement is you have a construction project. Let's say it's $2 million total. And I'm giving you an example here. It's just an example. That goes all the infrastructure costs, all the underlayment or under drainage cost, all the rock, and then the turf itself. The expectation is that you don't have to replace that under drainage. You don't have to replace the rock. You might be adding to the rock. You're just replacing the turf surface. So approximately 55% of the total construction cost would be what we would budget for replacement of turf in 10 to 12 years. Does that make sense? And being that this is a partnership between many entities of this group, Kansas Wesleyan, USD 305, Salina Baseball Enterprises, the city, it's very unique and presents some challenges about how we ensure fairness for fees and equitable use of the field. And that's part of the board's responsibility, that BFRA advisory board's responsibility is to ensure fair and equitable use of the field. The next two slides I'm not going to read. They are the segments of the agreements that relating to the topic that we have on hand right now. Yes, Ms. Zimmer?
Yes, back on the justification page, I couldn't, about metal spikes, could you go over that paragraph? I don't know what ATG is, and I don't know what the attic stock is.
I missed that paragraph. I'm so sorry.
That's all right.
So ATG is the company that provided the installation of the turf fields on Dean Evans and on Pestinger Family Stadium. ATG, or Ram Turf, is the name of the company. For the first 2 years of the use of Dean Evans in 21 and 22, the BFRA board was requested by Kansas Wesleyan to use metal spikes on the field. In return for that request, they volunteered to pay for replacement panels of various aspects of the high wear areas of that turf, namely the pitching mound. It might have been the batter's box as well, but it might have just been the pitching mounds. And then in return, they offered that. The board felt that was a good, fair request. They voted and allowed steel spikes to be used by Kansas Wesleyan in return for them paying for the installation of replacement panels. They did that. That happened in 21 and 22. In 2023, it's my understanding, and Travis, you might need to step in here because I don't remember was it 23 or this year? They did not
Starting in 2023, that request for steel spikes was denied, and the board voted not to allow anybody use steel spikes on the turf whatsoever. Even practices, games didn't matter. So with that, then the city kind of had responsibilities of replacing those items that Kansas Westland once did.
And what's the attic? What do you mean by attic stock?
Oh, attic stock. So whenever we do a turf project, so we've done 3 now, 2 in partnership with Salina Baseball Enterprises and 1 ourselves at Bill Burke. Part of the specifications of what they're bidding on to do the work involves a percentage of turf extra, and sometimes it's called attic stock, and you keep that stock in the attic, if you will, or in storage for future turf replacement of sections or panels that you need to replace over time because of wear and those high wear areas. So attic stock might not have been the best term to use, but I guess that's what they call it in the industry, I guess.
In a sense, what he's saying is we do have the extra turf. It just takes the labor and some material to replace it.
Thank you. Couple things. These 2 agreements that are one is for Dean Evans, one's for Pestinger or Wilbur Field and Matson Field. I wanted to point out a couple things in there. As I said, I wasn't going to read it to you, but it is the A, B, and C, by the game, for the game, by the hour for practices and other uses, and require additional fees for lights. A graduated fee schedule will be implemented, taking into consideration the respective contributions, and I have a slide relating to that segment.
And we talk about the contributions. Do you want to review how that came up? I mean, how's come the school district gets 50%, and yeah, that.
I think there's a slide I have. Can I talk about it during that slide?
Sure.
Yeah.
I thought that was a slide you're on, so sorry.
I have a graphic or a table that kind of goes into a little more detail of those percentages later on. So the respective contributions, and the parties express their intent and desire that the board, when making its recommendations, when establishing fees, will also take into consideration 6 factors. There's 6 factors when creating fees. As you can read there, cost of operation, cost of facility maintenance, cost of the construction and maintenance, gameplay compared to practices, age and size of participants, and number of innings per game. So if we can go through the rest of the slides somewhat quickly, I think. I provided a user breakdown of revenues collected from different agencies. Couple notes on here. As part of the most recent agreement with Pestinger Family Stadium, part of the agreement for the contribution, the large contribution by Salina Baseball Enterprises to fund Pestinger Family Stadium, they requested a fee waiver for any fees relating to the rental of Dean Evans and Pestinger Family. And if you have questions about any of these slides, please let me know. A summary of maintenance expenses that Travis's staff has relating to the care and maintenance of the facility. Some of the considerations of the provisions that I just talked about, those 6 items on the agreement that, so I provided a slide about facility maintenance and repairs, capital costs associated with construction, gameplay compared to practices, frequency of games and practices. So the amount of use that one individual or one team or one rental group has compared to other groups is a factor in creating fees. Age and size of participants is a factor. Youth players and teams, the number of people on a team, size of players versus youth baseball, high school baseball, college baseball, professional baseball, which we don't have right now. the number of players on a team I mentioned, and then, of course, the number of innings per game, whether it be 7-inning games, 9-inning games, doubleheaders, things like that nature. The next slide is a recommendation, our staff's recommendation for increased fees relating to the requirements of the contract and of the agreement, development agreement. The BFRA Advisory Board saw this information last Monday? The 12th, correct. And they voted to approve. They voted to recommend these fees that are listed. So I provided the current fees and I provided the proposed fee increases. I want to point out that these fees will be effective January 1st of 2025. This would allow for people to budget accordingly and plan for these increased expenses. The advisory board, BFRA advisory board, voted 6-0 to approve these fees. And we had a full quorum. Every member of that board was in attendance. These are the base rate fees right here. So it'd be $165 for a 7-inning game, $240 for a 9-inning game by the hour, $60 an hour, and then a practice by the hour for a team that has 40 players or more, or over 40 plus players, would be at $90 per hour. I think this is the second to last slide, and this is where the agreement calls for a graduated schedule for different user groups based on the contributions that they made. The board did not take up the graduated schedule at this time. The established graduated schedule from 3 years ago, when the board came up with that, or came up with a graduation schedule, was at the time from the base rate. Salina Baseball Enterprises would pay 50% of the base rate, and now they pay zero. The fees are waived for Salina Baseball Enterprises. USD 305, based on their contribution of $500,000, $500,000, was 50% of the base rate fees. Kansas Wesleyan's was a 75%, so they only pay basically they're paying 25% off. They're paying 75% of the full value of the base rate, based on their contribution, which I believe is $125,000. And then any other users that approaches Travis that wants to use the field, they would pay the full base rate.
I just want to note that this is for Dean Evans only, and everything is the same except Kansas Wesleyan was not a part of the Pestinger family development. So they don't have any discount when it comes to Pestinger Family Stadium, but they do when it comes to Dean Evans.
Thank you, Travis. I forgot about that. They were just to repeat what Travis said. Kansas Wesleyan was not a party to the agreement in the development of Pestinger Family Stadium. Only Salina Baseball Enterprises, the city, and Kansas, and USD 305. So at this point, I would be willing to have answer any questions that you might have relating to Dean Evans and Pestinger Field, Pestinger Family Stadium. If you need to discuss anything amongst the board. But my end goal here is to get a recommendation and any comments you might have, so I can bring to the City Commission next Monday, the 26th, is when this topic is going to be discussed at the City Commission.
So Travis, when you compared these other places, they have like $150 for a fee, and then they have an additional labor charge on that. We don't have that according to this thing. It's $165. There's not additional labor.
If they ask for additional things that's not included within the rental, then we would apply those, I guess you would say. But it's pretty standard that here's the field, lights are $25 an hour, but if they ask for more and above and beyond, we have applied some labor.
But
and that's just direct labor costs. Whatever the labor is that they make per hour is what we charge.
But it looks like all these locations have additional labor fees on a per hour basis, according to this chart.
Talking with some, going through this exercise, it's tough. It's you can't really compare apples to apples. It's apples to oranges. But we really tried to narrow down the ones that were very comparable, and their method is the same. Is hey, if they needed additional labor for extra cost, then they would apply that. So we're about the same when it comes to that.
I'd also like to point out in that same line of thoughts is that the agreements for Dean Evans and for Pestinger only calls out 3 fees. By the game, for the game, by the hour for practice, and for lights. That's the only 3 fees that are, but there are other fees, yes. But for this purpose, I'm just looking at the base rate fees.
If you're going to bring up a fee schedule, shouldn't you say something that there could be additional hourly fees?
You just think they should mention it, right?
Yeah.
Is what you're saying?
If these other groups are mentioning it here, that's saying this.
Well,
I mean, they can come in and say, okay, we're going to pay $165, and there's no, and I know there should be, but I don't assume anything.
it looks like Mays, for instance, it just says plus staff cost per hour, I mean, it sounds like just what you're saying is that, I guess, and it's your chart that puts that on there. I don't know.
Yeah, but I think if you just say one fee, I don't see that you can charge anything extra if you need to charge extra.
If you look in the recommended column for what we have is direct labor costs down at the bottom lower right. We still do have that in there.
Oh, okay.
So we're very comparable with other facilities with that. Does that help you, Larry?
And then that says Dean Evans. That includes also Pestinger when you say.
Yeah, we
Correct,
did.
yes.
When we made that point at the Berkeley Family Board, where I say I just assume this, but like you were saying, assuming that all fees that we're talking about with Dean Evans are Pestinger Family Stadium as well.
Except for the Kansas Wesleyan.
Except for Kansas
75%.
Wesleyan.
Yeah.
That's why I mentioned that.
Yeah. And so, how do you track all these teams? Like when they do practices, because I see Kansas Wesleyan there 8 hours a day sometimes.
Oh yeah. So they approach our office, and then we book in our software program. It's called Civic Rec. So we do book practices through there in Civic, and then there is or have been established the key system with Dean Evans as well, and they have codes to get in.
Yeah, the key code is we moved away from hardware keys to a key pin code, and that key pin code has a log that's associated with it, so we can compare that log to the actual reservation.
Because I still think we're not charging them enough, but that's my opinion. So,
well, the agreements and the nature of the agreement, it's relatively specific about fees are based on comparable facilities, and that's the exercise that we're doing with this board and with the BFRA advisory board and the city commission, of course.
just my opinion.
So should we make a motion? We could make a motion. I could move that we recommend these be
Recommendations.
passed on to the city commission.
I'll second it.
No, this is just for the Dean Evans.
Yeah.
You're going to go over the Bill Burke thing.
Yeah.
Pestinger.
Separate, yep.
I'm sorry, I'm talking a lot.
I'd like to add one thing that I don't know that Travis had to do all of this detail. He's done his due diligence, and I don't know that you could do any better job than what he has done and what was presented when I was at that last board meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I think I heard a motion and a second
Yes.
to that motion.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. I'll say nay, same thought sign. Motion passed.
Okay, moving on, Bill Burke. So Bill Burke does not have the nature of an agreement like Dean Evans and Pestinger does. So it's been several years since we've updated fees at Bill Burke. And not only have we not updated fees, we're kind of changing how the fee structure works. And Travis is just like Dean Evans. Travis is more of an expert at this than I am because he lives and breathes it. I do not. But he's gonna interrupt me again if needed. So we went through a similar exercise for Bill Burke to compare facilities for softball and for youth baseball type facilities. And at the end of this presentation, there is another sheet of paper that offers those comparables that Travis did. He did this earlier this year, maybe February of this year. And and this would be part of the action on Monday as well to address Bill Burke fees. Staff found that collecting data for Bill Burke, or Travis found that collecting comparable data for Bill Burke was very difficult because of the unique structure of this facility. Also, a lot of fields he found, and I really let Travis talk about this. Go ahead.
One of the challenges is all turf fields really are private. They're locked. So finding an open public turf facility is, if you know of one out there, let me know. So you got private that are managing and locking and those type of things. So, and also when reaching out to organizations, hey, what are you charging? They're not really open to tell you. So they want to keep that in their hip pocket, maybe to negotiate with some organizations or teams or that type of thing. But it did take some time and effort, but we managed to, we feel, get some comparables for you just to make sure we're in that right neighborhood and structure. We did that with the Sauna Fieldhouse as well years ago. So it's quite an undertaking, but we feel we provided some pretty close information for you.
Yeah. One thing on that as well, I think the nature of how those individual fields that we're trying to compare to are different sizes. They serve different age groups. Some are infield turf, some are full turf. It was just all over the map. So trying to find comparables, but I think we found a few comparables that we can relate to and make a recommendation to go forward. The next page, I provided some current Bill Burke fees. And I did provide the additional fees that we normally charge for Bill Burke as part of this exercise. A lot of rentable rates, renting equipment from us type rates that we would tack on or add on to someone's rent reservation. You can see that Bill Burke has been historically used as a walk-on type facility. And the fees were kind of by season rather than by hour, especially for school groups. And it is a unique facility because we not only have colleges using it, we have schools using it, or high schools. We have Travis's leagues running it, using it. We have tournaments on the weekends.
Traveling teams, tournaments, practices, colleges, high schools, youth teams. It's a very, very heavily utilized facility.
Yeah, and it is a very much an economic driver for people to come to Salina. Re-examine the fees for the fee structure. With the several years of not updating fees at Bill Burke, the construction of turf infields, the future turf replacement of that turf at Bill Burke, increased expenses of labor relating to maintaining it. We felt it necessary to re-examine those fees. We found comparable facilities for softball and youth baseball facilities, we're providing a recommendation and then providing the justification for that. Bill Burke is a 8-year warranty, and on the turf, it was finished in 2023. Again, just similar to Dean Evans and Pestinger Field, we are contributing fees to a turf maintenance fund, in addition to a capital contribution from the city's capital improvement program, and also transient guest taxes. Our fund will be part of that future funding source for that turf maintenance fund. And then similar to the Dean Evans, I provided a breakdown of fees relating to rentals of Bill Burke. And this is from 2023. And then I provided a maintenance summary of maintaining Bill Burke Park and the cost associated with that for 2023. And similar to what you saw for Dean Evans, in some of the considerations, so it's our intention to look at this on a yearly basis. If you've been on this board for a little while, you've realized every late fall, early winter, I provide a cost recovery update of results of programs, and I ask for fee increases or not for various recreation programming. It's our intention to include Bill Burke into that exercise to re-examine fees on a yearly basis with this board. The cost recovery program for Parks and Recreation allows us to increase fees within 10% every year if need be. And then we need to look at facility maintenance costs, repair costs, what it took to construct it and continuing to maintain it, what it takes to replace the turf, and then we're looking at gameplay compared to practices, frequency of games and practices, age and size of participants, number of innings per game, similar to what you saw for Dean Evans and Pestinger. And then the second to last page, I believe, is a staff recommendation for fees relating to use of Bill Burke, based on those direct comparable facilities that we provided on the separate sheet. And again, these fees will be proposed to start January 1st of 2025. We went with instead of going by a season rate, you'll see more hourly related rates, which is, as Travis started talking about a little bit, was similar in nature to how he operates the field house. It's by the hour for renting of fields. We did add a college practice and game rate to reflect the age and size of participants using those fields. We did address the field supervisor cost per hour on the right side of that page because of the increase in wages that we're paying part-time folks, plus a little bit of workers' comp fees and social security, things like that. The notes in the bottom, I want to make sure I point out the overall day rate is an approximately increase of 25%. Assuming reservations stay the same, a 25% increase in fees would result in approximately a $5,000 increase in revenue. And that's assuming reservations stay the same from 2023. And again, the proposed start date would be January 1st, 2025. And with that, I'll stop talking and hand it over to you for any questions that you might have for myself or Travis, and consider my requests for adjustment of fees and discuss it amongst yourself and ask questions. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, on the bottom of the little skinny line sheet, the staff recommends that you lock 6 of the 8
Oh,
fields. Is that
Thank you.
going to be part of this?
Yes, so we've already actually started that process. It started just after summer. Once turf fields were finished, we wanted to be able to control use and spread use. Well, at this point, I'll let Travis talk about it since he pulled up his mic, because he knows more about it.
Sure. This one we're learning as we go because, again, why I mentioned to you is turf fields, they're locked. And so we have an open public facility. So we got to play a little hybrid there. But right after summer, we did start locking some fields down, and that's just to control the maintenance. The usage goes down, and then we want to control the maintenance on those fields because we do lose our staff a considerable amount of staff at the end of the summer. So that's just a management tool to try to control the usage. And then we do have fields open to the public. And then we do lock some down for anticipation of them being used over the weekend, for a tournament. That way we can maintenance those and nobody's got on them, and then we unlock them for that tournament or for that usage. I'll give you a prime example. We know that this fall, Kansas Westland softball is going to be they have a fall season. They'll be using some fields. We're going to put them on 4 and 6 in the beginning. And then towards the end of around October, November, we'll put them down towards 2 and 3 because that's closest to the restroom that we have open. The yard is going to be utilizing the Bill Burke on Sundays. We're going to lock those down up until Sunday morning. We'll unlock those. So we're learning on that. But what we did come to the conclusion that we need to have some locked down and then some open to the public, and we're just feeling that number out.
And then, like rotating use so we can even the wear as well.
So Travis, on this sheet here with the fees from the other fields, there's a lot of cells that are obviously don't have anything in there. Is that, like, for example, tournament rate for half facility or whatever?
Let me get, which page are you on?
Oh, I don't know.
The skinny line page.
The one
Gotcha.
with all the fields on there. I'm just curious, like Hayes, in my estimation, looking at this, Hayes, Dekarski, and Manhattan are probably similar as far as turf infield, grass outfield.
I would say so.
So, like for Hayes, for example, tournament rate for half facility, there's no number there. Do they not have that, or you just couldn't get that?
Yeah, there were some that they didn't have or they did not want to reveal.
Yeah, because the one thing, I know that we had a stretch there where we didn't have a lot of tournaments coming in town that we now have coming back because of the turf. So I don't want to price us out of the water, but
sure.
I'm looking at some of these, if you start adding them up. I know it's a 25% increase for the rental fee for one day, but when you start adding some of these numbers on per field on Friday through Sunday and stuff, they're still quite a bit higher than what we would be charging.
Other entities are still higher?
No, we're going to be high. Or yes, other ones are higher than what we would charge. Right. So I don't want to leave money on the table there as well.
Sure.
But I was just curious because, like, if you do the Hayes math just with the $50 or $75 a field Friday through Sunday plus their fee with 8 fields, that's significantly more than $900 a day that we would charge.
Sure.
But Hayes charges a vendor fee of $100, whereas our vendor fee is only $25 per event.
Yeah.
So, it's hard to compare apples and oranges on all of these things.
I get where Kevin's coming from. Again, overall, we feel we're in that, 10 to 25% increase?
Yes.
Overall. So we are getting some increase there, and then that's why Jeff mentioned that we will be coming back to you on recommended fee increases for the future. We didn't want to price ourselves out in the beginning, and then we have the ability of going up to 10% within in-house.
Okay.
But if we go over 10%, we're coming to you and getting your recommendation.
Kind of like we kind of jokingly talk about the golf course rule, as in we know we need to be here but we do it over the course of time,
Right.
rather than what at one point in time the golf course just put themselves there,
Yeah.
and then there was a large public outcry.
Yeah.
And we spoke to a lot of these users, the schools, the tournament organizations. They know there's a fee increase coming.
Yep.
So they've kind of tentatively budgeted that, but they just want to know exactly what now, and which I think we're getting to. So they know there's a fee increase, and originally we didn't really want to price them out or make them go elsewhere.
Right.
We wanted to keep them because I'm with you, Kevin, that we feel that we're getting back to recruiting some of those events and having some great events. We really are. We want to keep them.
Yep.
Make a motion.
I'll make a motion that we go along with the fee increases.
I'll second
So,
it.
from
Second.
what I hear, you're making a recommendation to approve the fees as presented. Is that what I'm hearing?
For,
Yes.
for Bill Burke Park,
And I'll second it too.
right?
Yes, for Bill Burke.
Shall we vote?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All in favor, say all opposed, same sign. Passed.
Before Mr. Richardson talks about the old business, does everybody have a copy of this in
Yes.
front of them? If you don't, I can get you one.
Yeah.
It's got a blue top to it.
Okay, shall we go into old business? Berkeley Dog Park?
Yes, last month, some people approached the board about, during the citizens forum, about making improvements at Barkley Dog Park, and the request from the board at the time was to come back this month, today, with some more information. So I put together a presentation. I didn't get it done in time to include it in the packet, but I provided copies to everybody in attendance here. And I realized some of my slides are not in order. I'm so sorry. I wanted to start with the slide that says improvements to Barkley Park, and I wanted to try to capture all the comments that were provided by the Barkley Park group that approached the board. Requested amenities, make improvements to the experience for dogs and humans alike to create a destination dog park, shade structures with concrete pad, agility equipment for dogs, improve the turf in the trees, remove weeds, possibly synthetic turf, more seating for humans, varied terrain, blocking the wind, benches, bathroom for humans, adding a fourth pod for larger dogs, and a dog splash pad or water feature for dogs. So I went, and I also talked about, I think one of the items that came up was looking at spending dollars relating, instead of spending dollars relating to the dog park on the north end of town, putting that money into Barkley Park. And I felt compelled to provide some rationale for why we're looking at a dog park near the animal shelter. And it has been something that the city commissioners have already discussed and kind of gave a tentative checkoff on doing. It would allow animal services staff to use the entire space behind the animal shelter for exercise and socializing dogs, shelter dogs. Just the example I gave earlier about we had to close that public dog park portion behind the animal shelter because of kennel cough. This would allow us to isolate that and have them have it for their entire use. Allow for future improvements to the exercise yard behind the shelter, creating kennel runs, improving that area, creating a dedicated public dog park on the north side of Salina. And it's a suitable location on the north side because they're already used to having dogs over there. There's not many neighbors to have create an environment that would not be suitable. and has established parking. And I gave some conceptual drawings of what we were looking at for with a designer. We already have an architect looking at that dog park and designing it for us. But I tried to attempt to take some of their improvements that they requested and put some information we researched. We are planning on improving the grass at the dog park. We have a process we're going through now, or will be going through soon, to identify try to treat for an identified part of our grass called Little Barley. And then we're planning on putting pre-emergent down. We've already actually started a little bit, but we will be doing that more frequently next month in September. It'll be closed for 5 days to allow that pre-emergent to be watered in. And then in the spring, we'll have some results to show that Little Barley will not come back as prevalent as it was. It won't be a once and done solution. It'll be a ongoing improving of that turf for the dog park. But I kind of thought about it in similar. I'm a water park guy. I came from water parks. You don't want to put in grass in a water park that has clover in it or anything that attracts bees. Similar type of thought process I had based on their request. For dog paws, getting in bed in their paws, just similar to you don't want people in bare feet to be going around where bees are actively trying to get nectar. So we would still be closing one section of the dog park per year and rotating sections to perform in-depth maintenance relating to the turf, leveling of areas, adding soil, overseeding, looking at concrete improvements at that time, changing benches out. We did hear that there was some complaints about the benches we put in, and rightfully so. They're too wide. They're designed for human beings, not for dogs. So we could certainly find another type of bench that would work better than that bench. We have looked at bathrooms at Barkley Dog Park before. It was discussed at the Animal Control Advisory Board 3 or 4 years ago, and the Animal Control Advisory Board did not recommend going forward with bathrooms at the dog park because of the expense of providing utilities to that site. The sanitary sewer is currently on the other side of Markley near the houses. So we'd have to go under the road and underneath the runway, which is 20 inches thick of concrete, to provide sanitary sewer for a bathroom. There's also about 200 feet of we need to get water to Barkley Park as well. There might actually still be water there from the dog watering bowls, but I'm not sure how small that is or big that is. So we estimated some costs in that slide that says bathrooms at Barkley Dog Park. A prefab bathroom with installation is about $100,000. I did say we don't have a method for understanding accurately how many people use the dog park, but I would imagine it's quite a few. I think you're probably more experts than I am as far as how many people use it. It's and then the Animal Control Advisory Board also asked at the time about splash pads for dogs, and they were interested in that, but the city has a high desire to capture that water in a sanitary sewer, so the same type of costs for utilities would come into play. We have our own water utility for the city of Salina. However, we do want to capture it and get it back to the water treatment plant. We generally do not approve of water going to waste. We also like to do watering systems, whether it be a pool or a splash pad, that are recirculating systems. So we have a surge tank or a balancing tank, and we draw water that we chemically treat it, and we reuse that water. That might not be the most appropriate thing for dogs, though. Then we'd have to look at a pass-through system where it's a potable water, and then it's subject to if there's a watering restriction, then we might have to turn that off. But that we haven't had that here since I've lived here, anyways. But we have had drought-like conditions before my time living here. Synthetic turf at Barkley Dog Park. I do like the synthetic turf that we did put in. We put a small area at the animal shelter. It's about $18.50 per square foot. The Barkley Park site is 2 acres in size, which is 87,000 square feet. So it seems rather cost prohibitive in my mind to do synthetic turf. It's just because of the expense of how much that costs. And then there could be some savings with a large area like the dog park, because typically with synthetic turf, it comes in 15-foot rolls. And if they have a large area without instructions, they don't have to do many cuts. They just roll it out and sew it together and good to go. But there could be some savings relating to that, but it's still a significant expense. The agility equipment I found there, which was from a major manufacturer of playground equipment. They do shade structures. I found that interesting. I took that picture from their website. Got a price. It was $9,000. Some of the other investigation we did is that it's very difficult to get grass to grow around those areas. And as you can see in their picture, they're using mulch or rock around there. Most of the pictures we looked at of different dog parks had concrete underneath that agility equipment. And then we have to mow around that. But mulch would most likely be the cheapest way, but it would be washed out very quickly. It would be kicked out by dogs and things like that. Other items, blocking the wind. I made an assumption that the wind was coming from the north.
Yes.
Yeah, down.
The cold north wind.
Yeah, I thought so. Just making sure. We have looked at other areas where we would use trees or to provide a windbreak, and one of the examples is the dog park, to put a tree line or a tree row on the north end of that dog park to provide some type of windbreak. I looked at other ones, and we haven't talked about it much. It's a couple of years down the road, but for pickleball, providing a windbreak for pickleball courts. I'd rather almost do a tree row than a windscreen, because windscreens tend to get brittle and then they start shredding. And there's another area I'm sorry?
They blow off.
Yeah, they blow off, and you have to constantly reattach them. And at Barkley Park, it wouldn't work very well because it's only a 6-foot fence. Benches, we certainly can do benches. We add benches to our system. We repair benches. We bought benches recently for a different park project, so we can start looking at different benches and water features. Similar concerns relating to bringing utilities to the site for that water feature or that water splash pad. And there are companies that do make dog splash pads. They're pretty cool.
So if they could find some really gigantic donors,
Sure.
they could
Yeah,
have a lot of
definitely.
these things.
And that's what I think. That's all I had. There is a planned conversation with the City Commission on September 9th. I was trying to get it in to the City Commission on this coming Monday. I just couldn't make it happen for this coming Monday. So it is on September 9th relating to animal shelter, dogs, and some of these slides I have here would be incorporated into that conversation with the City Commission on September 9th. But I was attempting to provide, based on the board's direction last month, provide some context to what we could do and what we will do relating to dog parks. But if you have any feedback related to that, I'm not looking for a recommendation. I was just reporting back to the board. But if you have questions, I'd be happy to answer. Mr. Richardson, you have some requests from the public for
Have some
to
questions.
approach the podium if you wish.
Does anybody have some comments, please?
Jeff, did I not hear you, or did you mention the extra dog pad?
I did not mention it, but it was in my list.
Right, and that's why I
adding a
wondered-
fourth pod, and
Yeah.
I did not add that, and I did not look at costs.
Pod?
So right now there's 3 sections, and the idea that they had, which I think is a great idea, adding a fourth section to the north of the dog park that's there, to provide a second section for larger dogs, almost 2 large dog parks. And I'm sure, I've never seen it myself, but I don't take my dog there. There are times in which, and they probably reported it to the board last month, there are times in which there's so many large dogs in the large pod that it gets a little cumbersome and the dogs start getting on each other's nerves, and I do like that idea, but I haven't examined any costs relating to that. But there's room there. I'd be concerned about our schedule of closing pods and how we would maintain that, because we would be extending that rotation 1 year. So it'd be instead of every 3 years, it'd be every 4 years of having the ability to maintain those pods. So I'm a little concerned about that, but it's not a bad idea.
Bruce needs to leave,
Oh,
so if I can go,
Take
I'm
over
vice
for him.
chair, so I can take over.
yeah.
Is that all right?
That's fine. That's up to you
All
all.
right, is there anybody else from the public who wants to, yep.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Winnie Plunkett.
Could
I
you
just
go,
have a
could you go ahead and say your name,
Winnie
please?
Plunkett.
Okay, I didn't hear that.
I'm sorry. I have a question about the bathroom issue. The bathroom wouldn't necessarily have to go under the runway if you put it on the west, on that pad right there there's grassy area between the road and the runway. So that could be a savings. It's just a consideration.
Yeah.
Also, I didn't know, surely there's sewer at Dean Evans. Would it be less expensive to run it from Dean Evans than from across the road and under all of that concrete?
I think that's it's further distance. I believe it's
It is a
closer to
further
600.
distance, but it wouldn't have to necessarily be under all of that concrete. You could run it over to the soil and then it'd just be a trench.
Right.
you know.
Right.
And then my other question about the extra dog park, I've had other people tell me that if a fourth pin wasn't a consideration, they've been to dog parks where they have like a 6-foot run on the side of the dog park for what they consider a timeout area for dogs that are getting a little, and they can just open, and they actually have it gated so you can go straight from it would have to be, the south end. Well, you could put one actually on the north end too. I think you'd have room there,
We
but
can
for
put
the trees.
Put one on both ends.
Yeah, one on both ends, but you would actually gate it from inside the dog park and not from outside the dog park, so that if you had your dog and it was getting a little aggressive, you could go into the timeout area. So that was something else that I wanted to bring
Yeah.
up, and I thought it was, a reasonable thing. And the only other thing I have is, well, I did find a really cute.
Could you please talk in the microphone?
I'm sorry. I found really cute fire hydrants that you hit the top of it and the water sprays out. I found them on the internet. They're like $2,100 a piece. The ones I saw, they had set them on just like a brick section. Now, again, that takes water, but we have water. We know we have water because we have, the water thing. It wouldn't, if you want to save water, then that's a whole other consideration. But those were really cute. But the other thing I wanted to show you was this, and I wished I'd made it bigger. And can I pass it around to you?
Sure.
Just walk by us.
This is just something that, rather than all of that separate agility equipment that you would have to mow around and stuff, this would be a one-time, or one area that you would have to mow around. Yeah. And I'm sorry I didn't get it. I wished I'd printed it off and got it to you, but it's pretty cool. And then it would just be one area. You wouldn't have. Don't want to forget the most important person over here. You wouldn't have all those areas to mow around. And those are my considerations. Thank you.
Anybody else?
My name's Linda Reynolds. The grass looks pretty good right now. I'm really concerned about the drop-off. Can we get something in there to fix it now? We watched somebody, an older lady, fall face first this last weekend. And it's just horrible, especially in the big dog park. The little dog park, it's there, it's that high, the grass covers it off, and I watched people step on that and go, whoa, and catch themselves. But, I mean, I even thought about bringing in dirt and put it in there so nobody gets hurt. That's that one. A second one is, Jeff had told me about all the money that's in that Salina, whose ever fund it is, for $673,000.
The city's
Is that the city's, or does that go for the animal shelter and or the dog park? Can that be used?
That's part of the presentation I'm planning for the 9th of September. But the intended use of the special revenue fund for the Salina Animal Shelter, which is under the city of Salina, is for the facility improvements relating to the Salina Animal Shelter. It's for the care and welfare of dogs. At one point in time, it was a source of revenues to be collected for dog park purposes, for Barkley Park itself, actually. We received about $2,200 total of donations relating to the dog park. The remainder of the donations that we used were for unrestricted uses for dogs to the animal shelter. So right now that fund balance is about $595. Well, at the end of 2023, it was $595,000.
So that'll come up then on that study session in September? Okay, thank you.
Is that all from the guests? Anything from? If there's nothing else, there's no motion or anything to make, is there? Okay.
Nope.
Thanks, Jeff. All right, project updates.
Oh, boy,
Do you just want to do all four of them at one time, so I don't have to announce them separately?
I'll do them all. Pestinger Family Stadium. The Dean Evans lights was part of the project to replace the light heads at Dean Evans Stadium. That is finishing up this week, I believe. Yes. And we'll start, Travis and myself and a few other staff members will be doing commissioning of those lights. Not commissioning, but owner training relating to the control of those lights. They'll be testing them out at night and seeing how they work and how they illuminate the field. From there, the main general contractor for the Pestinger Family Stadium will be doing some additional security fencing. They'll be doing a home run fence, which is a safety-related item for play at Dean Evans. So if we felt pretty strongly that now that we're creating two premier baseball fields, if someone hits a home run out of Dean Evans, someone's playing in between the fields. So we're putting in a home run fence to keep that area safe. We have some improvements there. There's people walking to the hitting cage. There's a drinking fountain that's going to go in that area. So we wanted to make that improvement. Then we'll be doing site restoration, moving grass, moving soil around, and will be eventually the city will be they'll be seeding it, we'll be watering it. So we're putting in an irrigation system to irrigate the area on either side of the ends of the field, foul side ends, and then the back behind there. Jerry Ivy Memorial Park, we had August 12th, we had a commission action for design and engineering of Jerry Ivy Park for the south end. We showed some concepts. If I was thinking ahead, I would have showed you that concept as part of this board. We should have a preliminary design next month, and I'm hoping to have something to show you as a preliminary design next month from that design and engineering agreement, which includes the new splash pad at Jerry Ivy, a small water feature, and a upgraded memorial to police officers and Jerry Ivy, the police officer. Kenwood Park bathrooms, we're in the middle of renovating that bathroom on the south end of that Oakdale-Kenwood complex, so the bathroom that's near the train. To put it in some context, we've got the inside ripped out. We found some deficiencies in that we needed to rectify with the substructure of that bathroom and the electrical service coming in. We need to rectify that. Something new I want to make sure the board's aware is that based on the direction of the city manager's office, we are adding some additional lightning detection devices in the Oakdale-Kenwood area. We have a lightning detection at Bill Burke for baseball purposes, so we're adding one for special event purposes in Oakdale, Kenwood Cove purposes. As you can imagine, lightning's knowing what lightning is in the area more than just an app on your phone. So the idea is that the lightning detector detects lightning when it enters a 10-mile zone within the area. It has an alert, an alarm, or a horn, and then the area is notified. So it would serve not only Oakdale for special events, Kenwood Cove, tennis, outdoor events of the county. It has, and also would help the YMCA because that whole area has a lot of recreation, a lot of outdoor components. So we're putting in 2 horns to cover that area. The one horn will be on top of the roof of TPEC, and the other one will be mounted to a light pole inside Oakdale Park at the pickleball complex. So that's going to go in before probably in March of next year is when that'll be installed. Hope that was quick.
Yep. Anything else? Do we have...
If you have other questions, let me know.
Any general announcements? I need a motion to adjourn.
So
I'll make
moved.
the motion.
I second.
All right, all in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you.
Thank you.